Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I'm back with a new layout for Pinkfresh Studio, and I made this layout for the October 2020 monthly challenge, and the colors go with the new Days of Splendor collection, and the theme is fall. So that's what I'm going to make today, and I'm going to try to incorporate these adorable dies. Now I've used these on one previous layout. They're called Floral Circles from Pinkfresh Studio. And then this is the new Days of Splendor collection. And I've used it once, and I'm excited to use it again. I think the colors are really pretty. Some of these papers I've already cut into. And I'm just kind of going through the papers here, trying to decide what I want to do. And whenever I can't come up with an idea, I usually just try to focus on one piece of the pattern paper, or in this case, I thought, I'm going to start with these dies. And so I took that paper with all the little color blocks on it right there that I've already cut into for my other layout. And I thought, let's just start die cutting some circles and see if that sparks an idea. So that's what I'm going to do. This is my manual die cutter, and I'm just going to basically pick some different color blocks from that pattern paper and cut a few of these floral circles out. And sorry, I'm at the bottom of the screen there, but I'm just poking out the little inside pieces of the leaves. Some of these have little intricate pieces, but they're really, really cute. And I think these can pretty much go on any theme of a layout that you're making. And so I'm going to cut out some in green, some in that peachy color, then that deep golden, yellowy orange color. Just a variety of fall colors, and see if this helps to get my idea going, because sometimes I have an idea right away, and sometimes I can sit there and stare at the papers and I struggle with an idea. So once I had all those circles cut, I went to find my photo, which you just saw there, picture of my daughter standing outside looking at the lake. She was actually probably throwing sticks and rocks in the lake because that's what she loves to do. But that's the photo, and I printed it in color because I loved all the greens and then the color of the water, and it's just a beautiful nature picture. And I'm going to use white cardstock as my background. I'm just covering it with clear gesso because I'm definitely going to do some mixed media here. And I finally decided to do a grid layout, and I've made several grid layouts in the past, and I think that grids are a great design for when you want to create something and use a lot of embellishments or a lot of layers. And I think it's good because you can kind of create 4 separate little layouts, if that makes sense, because you have 4 quadrants here, and so you can kind of treat each quadrant as its own mini layout, and you can embellish each one in its own way. And I just think they're fun, and they are a way to get an idea flowing. And once I decided on this grid, it just sort of worked. And I knew that I wanted the photo to go on the bottom right, because in the photo, my daughter is on the far right of the photo, and she's looking toward the left. And I always like to have my subjects kind of facing in toward the middle of the page, so it looks like she's going to be looking across the page at something. So that took care of the bottom right quadrant. So the fun part of this was deciding what to put in all the other squares. So I wanted to use that multicolored square or paper that I used to cut all those circles in the beginning, but on a smaller scale. So I use several papers from the 6x6 paper pad. And that is what I'm going to use in the upper right square, and then here on the lower left square. I'm going to use one of the little square frames for the upper left, and it's got a little die cut sewn onto it already. There's a whole pack in this collection of frames and fun dimensional die cuts and shapes and things with stitching. And so that's really, really cool because you get that extra added texture and interest. And all I'm going to do now is just kind of add things. I don't wind up using all of those circles that I cut. I cut way too many, but they will keep for another layout. I'm going to use a piece of a tag. I'm going to use some die cuts, some stickers. I'm going to wind up kind of adding lots of things to this layout. And I'm trying to decide if I want to make sure that my photo is perfectly centered, or do I want to put it off center, kind of like it is right there, and make it kind of crooked. But I do know I want to add a few things underneath it for layering. And I'm just kind of cutting and tearing. And I want to make sure that all of the colors are kind of represented in all of the squares. That really pretty lilac light purple color, I have that in the upper right square, so I want to make sure I pull that into, you know, at least the bottom left square, so it's sort of a diagonal idea. But this is the idea, and I want to do some mixed media, a different color behind each square. And I thought that I would start out using some of the mini ink cubes. That one is called Soft Lilac, I believe. And I wind up using mostly the liquid watercolors from Pinkfresh Studio. And I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to make these muted colors from these bright bold colors, because if you've seen the liquid watercolors from Pinkfresh Studio, they are very bright and definitely not fall, like straight out of the bottle. They are more summer. But I'm going to show you on this layout how I made each of these colors. Now on this particular square here, I'm going to make the that light soft lilac purple color. I started with that ink cube, but I wound up adding in some of the lavender watercolor with a touch of the pink bubble gum. And here's where I spill the brown. Yeah, look at my fingers. Rookie move here. Be careful and don't drop the brown watercolor. Look at that. Beautiful. This is why I don't do manicures. My fingers are usually covered in paint and gesso anyway, so it'd be a waste of money. But here I am adding brown. You know, let's just go ahead and say it. The layout today is brought to you by the color brown, because I'm going to wind up adding brown to just about everything, and it's going to be magical and amazing, and it's going to make the most perfect colors. That color turned out perfect. It's pink, purple, and brown mixed together, and it's awesome. I was so excited. I thought, okay, I'm never going to get this purple color because it's not pink, it's super light purple. And how am I going to do that? Because the lavender watercolor is as purple as it can get. But you know, when you add a little bit of brown to it and soften it up with some water, it's the perfect color. It worked out great. Even though I spilled the brown in my brand new little watercolor tray over there, you know me, I gotta make a mess one way or the other, right? Anyway, I can still use it even though I spilled half the bottle. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and attach my layers. Yeah, still admiring my brown fingers. I'm gonna glue those together because I like how that's looking, and I'm trying to decide what 3 other colors I'm gonna add to the other 3 squares, because I want to use a different color. I've already got the pink, and I used the pink behind, or the purple, whatever color you want to call that, behind the photo, because there's none of that color in the photo. Yeah, I washed my hands and they're still stained, but oh well. So I want to use some green. So I thought we were going to try to make that sage green color that's kind of in the frame. And this worked out great. Let me tell you, the green is super green, and it's called Emerald City. I mixed in some black instead of brown. I know I said we're going to use a lot of brown. We're also going to use some black. I mixed in a little bit of black with the green, and it was great. And I'm also going to add a touch of the blue, which is called Sapphire, and it works out great. You just kind of have to experiment with the colors. Don't be afraid to add in a dab of the brown or the black to tone things down. And I'm using my brush here. The cardstock that I'm using is, I believe it's textured. I don't think it's the smooth, thick white. I think this is the textured cardstock, so you can see the texture. What color is that? Oh, I think that is a little bit of the sky blue. Oh no, that's Sapphire. Do you see how bold that is? The gesso allowed me to dab it up though. And I add a little blue, a little bit of black, a little bit of green, and it winds up being the perfect color. And this is the beauty of the gesso, is if you add too much of something, you can dab it up and start over. And it's awesome. I love that. And this winds up being the most perfect muted green color. And you know, you're only going to see this peeking around the edges of each of the squares of the layers. So if it's not perfect in the center, it doesn't matter, because you're just going to be seeing this around the edges. So then I thought, okay, on our next square, let's make that burnt orangey yellow color. So look how bold this yellow is. Whoa, yep. Add some brown. That's still way bold. I thought, oh my goodness, this is not the color I was going for. So we dab some of it up, we water it down, and it winds up being the perfect color. Again, the gesso, you know, if you don't use gesso, it's gonna pretty much soak right through the paper. You're not gonna be able to dab it up like so. But this worked out great. So that is the sunshine yellow mixed with the brown. The brown is called espresso. And it winds up being the perfect burnt yellow color. It matches the color to that little square over there, right there on the right. I don't even know what color you would call that. I'm going to call it burnt yellow orange, if that even remotely makes sense. All right, one more square. Let's see what we're going to come up with. Green and black. I think this one's going to be more on the green side, because the other square, oh, that's what I did. The square on the left, I thought I was going to make it green. It winds up being more on the blue side. This square winds up being more on the green side. That's what it was. When I started adding the blue to the bottom left, I just thought, well, let's just make this one blue and I'll make the other one green. So that's what I did. This was several days ago when I made this, so I'm trying to remember my train of thought as I was making it. Yep, that's going to be the green square, and the other one winds up being more on the blue side. But I love how this looks kind of, you know, it's got some spots where it looks like it ran into the next square. I love how that looks. I just love it. I think these colors turned out really, really nicely, especially since, you know, like I said, these watercolors are so bold and concentrated that just a little bit of black or brown will make a huge difference. And adding water and, you know, dabbing it up and making sure you don't add too much here or there. But I think the colors turned out great, and I like that you can see them kind of peeking around the edges of everything. What I'm going to do here is ruffle up the edges here. This is an edge distressor tool. It's got a little teeny tiny blade in the middle of it there. If you don't have one of those, you can use the side of your scissors. That works great too. It just kind of distresses the edges, messes them up a little bit, makes them look a little rough and weathered. And I love that look. I'm going to add a little smidgen of this paper here to bring a bit of that darker blue color to that section. And yeah, I love layers, and a layout like this is great because you can use a lot of things in small doses. You know, I can use a lot of layers, but it doesn't look like it's too much because everything's so small. I'm going to tuck in a couple more of those circles that I die cut in the beginning, and then start to play around with other embellishments and see what might look good where. I am going to go through the die cuts. Oh yeah, I'm showing you here that I did some stitching on each of the 3 places, or not places, the squares, and then I did a crisscross right through the middle with the gold thread to kind of differentiate each square, to kind of point out that, you know, there are 4 different sections. I always like to do that on a grid too. I'm going to wind up popping up all the squares. I'm going to pop up the photo, and then I went through the die cuts. These are the floral and leaf die cut packs. I'm going to tuck in a couple of flowers and leaves here and there. I've got the chipboard circles. I've got the regular die cut pack, the cardstock stickers, the puffy stickers. I love that Pinkfresh Studio always has a big variety of embellishments. And I'm just trying to scatter all of the images around, make sure all the colors are kind of represented in each square. And I wanted to use a couple of those leaves. They kind of remind me of like weeds that you would find in the lake or close to the lake, and so that's why I wanted to use those stems kind of over on the upper left and lower right. And here are the chipboard stickers. I'm going to use a couple of those in a couple spots, and since I don't know where I want to stick those yet, I'm just going to cut them right out of the plastic there so I can kind of stick them, or not stick them, but put them somewhere to see if I like how they look there before I actually stick them down. Same thing with the puffy stickers here. I'm just going to cut it out so the backing is still on it. I love these little leaves here. They look like little trees, and maybe they are little trees. I think they could be trees or leaves, but they're tiny, so I'm going to use those on the upper left square, and then try to find a home for a couple other things. Use one of the little dragonflies, couple of little flower bundles, and then I'm going to pop up, like I said, I'm going to pop up each square because I love dimension. I love making things kind of stand up off the page. And it's, when I say that I like dimension, it's not like it's sticking off the page super high. It just gives it a little bit of lift, just enough to give it a little bit of shadowing and make it look a little more 3D than just completely flat. I'm going to use that little squirrel. He was just too cute not to use it. I'm going to put him right there so it looks like he's about to hop into the photo. Although he's larger than my daughter, I don't even care. The scale doesn't match to the photo, but that's okay. He's still cute, and it looks like he's about to make friends with her. So, you know, that's why I like to kind of situate faces kind of looking toward each other, if possible. And now we're going to be gluing some things down, sticking some things down, making sure everything is glued together. If I'm sure that that's where it's going to go, I'm going to glue it down. If I'm not sure, I'm going to just maybe let it sit there for a bit until I am sure. I'm going to bend up the edges of these little flowers here. Because again, dimension, flowers, leaves, and butterflies are probably the easiest things to create dimension because you can fold up the edges really easy. I decided to add another layer of foam behind the photo. It just still felt too flat for this page for whatever reason, so I added another piece under there to pop it up a little bit higher. And then I'm going to start to work in my thread. And of course my thread got tangled into one of the circles and I could not get it untangled, and then it got tangled on everything else and I was just about to have a meltdown. So I just had to scoot everything out of the way. I finally just ripped it off. Yeah. I was having a day. I spilt the brown. I got my thread tangled up everywhere. Yeah. You ever have days like that where you're trying to make a layout and everything just goes wrong? You spill something or something messes something up and you're just like, ugh! That's what's happening. So yeah. Sometimes we all have meltdowns in the middle of scrapbook layout. Crafty struggles, right? I did not have the exact color thread for the that dark navy blue-ish color that's on the layer behind the upper right and the lower left. So I mixed together two thread colors. I mixed together a dark blue and a dark green, and it wound up looking like the color that I needed. So that's another tip and trick. If you don't have the thread color that you want, you can mix two together, kind of like when you mix your paints together, because it looks like the color. Once I made it into a big circle and then I looped it around that purple flower there. I've added in some pink. I've added in some of that rust yellow color right there by the squirrel, and then I'm going to add in some of that lighter minty color up on the upper left area, I think. Yes, right there. And I like the thread. It adds fun texture. It adds color. It just kind of adds to the whole messy factor, because my backgrounds are always messy. So I like to enhance the whole idea of the mess. And I think the thread does a good job of that. Just one of those weird things that I like. And so we're going to go for it. I decided to keep the photo square on instead of making it crooked. Sometimes when I make a grid layout, I'll have the photo kind of cross the plane and tilt it a little bit just to make that one element kind of crooked, because the whole idea of this grid design usually is to keep everything in a perfect grid, which means it's all straight and orderly. But I like to have at least one thing that's off center or off kilter. But in this case, I felt like keeping it straight. So the photo is going to stay straight. And I wound up not layering much behind it. I layer in the flower and the leaf and then a couple of stickers. I'm going to layer in a little bit more thread underneath it. But I kind of just wanted the photo to kind of be left alone. I didn't want to crowd it too much. And here's what I've got so far. You can see there what I mean by dimension. It just pops things up just a little bit. It's not too crazy. This would still fit in a page protector. Nothing would get really smushed down. Nothing's really standing up off the page too much. For my title, I used another die set from Pinkfresh Studio. These are called the Classic Words die set. And I cut Beautiful on one of the little 6x6 papers. And then I'm going to mix and match with the little mini multicolored puffy alpha stickers that are in this collection. And my title is just going to be Beautiful Days. Something simple, something sweet. And I like how Days is going to snuggle right into underneath the beautiful. It's going to fit right in between the B and the F. Yep. Again, I know I've been mentioning Jen Scow a lot lately, but if you are into learning how to nestle and how to snuggle things in just like that, she is the queen of that. And it's just magic when something like that happens, you know? I thought, what's a small word that would fit under beautiful and kind of just fit in there just perfect? And Days it is. And I probably have 100 layouts with the title Beautiful Days, and that's okay, you know? I don't have to only use one title one time in my lifetime. Sometimes the title is just a random title. Sometimes it's more personal than that, but this was just a fun fall day at the lake, and so it was a beautiful day, you know? So I felt like that title worked great. And this is where I added some more thread underneath the photo there. That's more of that rusty yellowish orange color. And it's going to fit right there. And I just make sure like parts of it are glued down so it's snug. And then I wanted to add a little bit of distressing to parts of the pattern papers to make them look a little bit weathered. And to do that, I like to just use my fingers and smudge a little bit of white gesso. And it just kind of whitens out a couple spots to make it look not perfectly all one color. It just adds a little bit of age to the papers. And you can't even really tell a big difference. I can tell, and I think in the end you can tell, but it's just another one of those small things that I think adds to the full effect at the end. And I couldn't resist adding some white splatters. I'm not trying to go for a snow effect, but I thought, you know what, I need some splatters, and let's go with white. So that's what I'm going to do there. And I like how that looks. I'm going to add in another little, oh, that's from one of the circles that I die cut. I just cut the circle part off. I'm going to add in some of my favorite embellishments from Pinkfresh Studio that I use a lot, and those are the essential jewels and crystals. I've got 3 colors picked out there, a light, pretty brownish color, a purple color, and then a light blue color, and I'm going to scatter those around the layout in a couple spots once I get this circle glued down. That's the circle that I cut. I cut the flowers out of it. So that's another way to use that die set. You don't have to use them as circles. You can cut them up. I love these little jewels. Oh my goodness. They are awesome. They are so sparkly, and they come in 3 sizes. I'll show you here in a minute once I get them glued down up close how shiny they are. And they're dimensional. Oh, they're so cute. I think I could use these on every single layout for the rest of eternity and be completely happy. Yep. The crystals have like more of a point at the top, whereas the jewels have a flat top, but they both have flat bottoms, so they're easily glued down on cards, layouts, whatever you want. I added my journaling there, and that's the final layout. I really, really love how this turned out. I love how the background colors turned out. I was so excited that they actually came together once I started mixing. So that was exciting. And then, yeah, like I said in the beginning, I just treated each square like it was its own little layout. And it was just fun to go through all the embellishments and put this together. I did add some gold splatters at the very end to kind of pull from the gold thread that I stitched with, but I'll make sure I link everything that I use that is available in the store down below. The dyes, the watercolors, all that good stuff, the jewels. And yeah, I hope you can check those out. I took a ton of close-ups here. You can see all the dimension, all of the fun little details. But I hope you will join us in the challenge. I'll link that down below as well. And you could have the chance to win a $50 gift card. So I hope you take part in that. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.